so timely for me to understand
Good.
contracts.
Very good. So you have not had a transaction.
No,
Okay.
I'm still waiting for my license to come
Okay,
back.
good. This is a perfect time for you. And here?
George Huffman, new realtor. I do have my license, no transactions yet.
Okay, good.
Going through as much information as I can as far as how to.
Very good.
My name's Tyler Moss. I'm the realtor also. Just got my license, and I haven't had a transaction yet, so.
Good. Good timing. Good.
My name is Riley. About a month in the business. My license just came back not too long ago.
Very good.
One buyer.
Very good.
Looking to help them find a duplex, something you can invest in.
Mhm.
And
Put that on the closed Facebook. You're looking for duplex.
Yeah.
Because there's 100 of us plus,
Mhm.
and we know things.
Mhm.
And so if you're looking for something,
Right.
we may can help you with that.
Yeah, because I'm not, I've never invested before, so I'm not really sure what an investment property would look like.
Mhm.
Kind of just looking at like what homes go for rent there, or duplexes or units, and
Mm-hmm.
then seeing if the purchase price, if it would be good, but I don't really know. I don't want to steer him wrong, so.
Sure. And you could one-on-one with someone and get some more information so
Right.
you would have that value for your buyer
Okay.
and be educated and speak confident about it.
Okay.
And that would be a good start for that buyer.
Awesome.
Any Posey, just starting this real estate addiction, retired law enforcement. So, transactions or anything yet, just looking on business cards and everything, don't really have very many meetings. Every meeting I've had, they said, you have your business cards?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, gotta get those first.
It's a good start, yeah.
I'm Marissa Clyde, I've been here about a month, just got my license back in the transaction.
Okay, well, this is a perfect day for this. So my name is Hope, and I've been with Keller Williams, the only real, I started and came to Keller Williams. And I worked in higher education for most of my career. And then when my youngest daughter graduated, she wanted go to Liberty, so I worked there so she could go to school for free. True story. And so when she finished there, I was not thinking that was something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And then my accountant said, so you know, you could, you're gonna have to pay taxes now that all your kids are grown, and it would be good if you had some type of state investment or so I took the class and got my license, and it was like, what am I doing here? Because I thought, yeah, there was an A like realtor. I was like, I don't even know how to spell realtor. And so I know it can be overwhelming, and there's so much. It's kind of like learning Spanish or something, and you're not born knowing it. So my first thought is, this is contracts class number 1, and you should probably do it again. And you should probably do it again, because today you'll get some things and you'll remember them and you'll take it with you. And then the next time you'll get something else, and every transaction is going to be different. There's people are different, houses are different, things are different. There's always something different. And so we'll start here and kind of grow from there. And then if you can, are you all going to Ignite? Good, go to Ignite, because it's all, like putting the pieces to the puzzle together and trying to figure out this career that you have chosen. So I'm glad you came in person, because I was having a little mini heart attack when I thought we were going to do this on Zoom, because it's really a go through the paperwork together kind of day. And that's what we're going to do. So you all have your packet, and you can open them up and spread them out and like roll up your sleeves. And let's put these together, or let's spread them out in an order that will go over them. So let's start off with the exclusive right to represent. Hello, you. I can hear you. I just love you.
You'll see all that.
First thing. Next. Residential property disclosure part 1. Pretty sure it doesn't say part 1, but it's the
Yeah,
one
yeah.
page. Part 2 is the paperclip section. And then the standard clause addendum. One item in addition to this packet is the lead-based paint disclosure that will go with your purchase agreement when the house is what?
Painted with lead-based paint.
Correct. Built before 78. So every house that you prepare a purchase agreement for that was built before 78 will require the lead-based paint disclosure. And it's sort of self-explanatory, but if you have questions, you can call me and we'll go over that together. Okay, so, when you think contracts, you're like, okay, we're gonna type a contract, and this is purchase agreement contract. This is not a listing agreement contract class. So we're not really even gonna go over listing agreement. That's a whole nother to do. And if you need, you can always call me and I'll help you walk through a listing agreement. So this is purchase only today. Okay. And with that being said, this is the LAR, Lynchburg Association of Realtors purchase agreement class. You will get a Virginia purchase agreement. It is different. You will get a Roanoke Association, REAR purchase agreement. It is very different, but that's where we are. We're in Lynchburg, and we have agents that use only VAR and only RVAR. So you're going to need to know that because there's things on there that are different. And when you're representing your buyer, you need to understand what it is that you're sharing with them and how to deliver the message to them. So Carol Massey, do you all know Carol Massey? She's our broker. So she asked me not very long ago to start off with contract class now by so usually, or used to be, before so much before so much email-ish, we would sit down with our buyer and go over the papers. And we don't really do that much anymore. As a matter of fact, we get so excited. How are you? We get so excited for that, we got the purchase agreement that we just fill in the blank and we push send and we don't have any questions. Ta-da! And then poof, they push the button and you have a signed purchase agreement, share it with the seller, and then we're ratified. And it's like life is good already. So that's really not a good practice to do, even though that is kind of like where technology is. So what I'm asking you to do is and what Carol's asking you to do is don't just push the button and send all of this stuff because, you're a licensed agent. How do you expect them to know what it is that you're sending? Just push the button. Oh yeah, you're good. Because something is going to come up and you're going to say, oh, did I not explain that Zoom, Facebook meeting, however, but don't just push the button and let it go from there because this is a lot of here. All right, so let's start off with the exclusive right to represent. Well, you can't type a purchase agreement. Oh, there's a lovely thing. Wow. Ta-da! Sorry. You can't type a purchase agreement. You can't represent a buyer if you don't have an exclusive right to represent them. It gives you permission to make the offer for them. And this is supposed to be filled out prior to showing, because that gives you permission to, it explains how you're going to have your duties, what are you going to do for your buyer. And so get this signed prior to, if you can, but prior to doing any purchase agreements, you have to do. And then we won't go through every single word on these documents, so we'll be here for like 3 days. So as of today, between the buyer, and if there are 2 people, you should put both of their names on here. And then you have to put Keller Williams, don't put your name. So this agreement is with your buyer and Keller Williams, okay? And then number 1 says the specific property. If you put 1234 Smith Street, this is only good for 1234 Smith Street. So if you put the word residential here, you won't have to do it again. So it's a good idea to put that, unless it is just a specific, or they may even ask you to only do it for a specific property. And then it will begin, and then it will end, terminate at midnight, and you can put it for 6 months or so. I mean, I'm showing them a couple now for the 3rd year, and I'm good with that. And it will happen. And one day, I'm going to let it happen. There's nothing quick about real estate. So when you get the purchase agreement, you can start getting excited about it. And until then, it's time and it's good, and you grow that relationship, etc. Okay, and then we'll skip down to number 5. So read these boxes. There's 3 boxes. This is how you get paid. Who's going to pay your commission? And you should check the middle box. Unless you have some other type of compensation agreement. Maybe it's a for sale by owner and the buyer's going to pay commission. But the majority of the time, the seller pays the buyer agent commission, and that's how you get paid. And this is how we know how to get paid. If you don't check that box, you might not get paid. So check that box.
It's the middle box.
The middle box. The middle box. Broker shall be paid a fee equal to the compensation offered by the listing firm. See it? Second box.
Yeah, right below the or.
Okay. And then you should put 60 days after the expiration of this agreement. And what does that mean? Well, it means if you showed this property to your buyer, and let's just say it expired, and then 3 days after it expired, your buyer wants to buy this house. Well, you have an agreement that says they're still going to pay you commission 60 days after it is not on the market. Okay. And that's why that is there. And then it explains your agency, and then you sign it under broker, and they sign it under buyer. Questions?
I'm still confused about, so I know you X the middle box here, where it says select one box or other. I'm kind of confused with that part.
So the last box then, the buyer shall also pay to the broker at the time the fee is due. Well, buyers don't pay commission. Sellers do.
I'm talking about above that.
Okay.
Where it says, fee paid to the broker shall not be less than select one box percentage of the gross purchase price of such property or other.
So 3% of the gross purchase price of such property would be how you fill that out. Now, if the listing agreement in the MLS says 2.5% commission
For the buyer agent.
for the buyer's agent,
So when they list it, they put how much they're gonna pay.
they,
It's 2.5.
they list it.
Yes.
That is correct. And you may have 3% on here. You're only gonna get 2.5 because
Okay.
that's what they said they're going to give to you.
Okay, but you can still put the 3%.
Yes, you may, yes. And it may say 5%, because land is 5% usually, sometimes. Commercial is more, et cetera, but the 3% is the standard for that section. Good? Moving on, okay. Now you can type your purchase agreement, because you have an exclusive right to represent your buyer. This is 9 pages. And it is detailed, but it's not complicated. So write on your paper, put it in your folder, keep it with you, and call me if you get to a spot that you can't remember it, how we know. And if I need to slow down or you have questions, just chime in. So let's do like a little role play, okay? So John wants to buy 123 Smith Street today. So we're gonna put today between John and the seller, where you can find that information. Like, you're not the listing agent, and how do you even know? Because they're not your clients, you have the buyer, right? Well, on the MLS, if it is on the MLS, and if it's not, you'll have to ask the for sale by owner. What is your name? Right? And that's how you fill this out. But if you go to the MLS, and if you haven't been to an MLS training or Ignite, that would be your next step, because you'll need to know how to navigate and get this information. So on the MLS, write this down. There's a icon or tab at the very top of your homepage that says links. Click on links, and then go down to links. To links. And then when you select links, it will bring you to a section that says Amherst, Appomattox, Bedford, Campbell, Halifax, or whatever, Pennsylvania County, and all of our counties that are in the MLS will be right there, and you can click on it because you're going to know where you are, where you're shopping. And so click on that and then type in, you can either type in the address because you're going to know that, you've already been there and shown the house, or the tax ID that you will find on the MLS on the listing that the seller agent put into the MLS. Okay, so when you type in 123 Smith Street and it comes up, it will ask to generate a report. It's about 3 pages. Generate the report, I print it. And then I have a folder for every transaction. So my 123 Smith Street, I print out the MLS, and then it will tell you who owns this property and what their legal name is, because it has to be legal on this document. So that's how you find the seller, and then some. There's like all kinds of information on that report. And then the purchaser will be who you're working with as your buyer. And you'll want to ask them what is their name, like their real name, because Bob is probably not Bob, or John might be Jonathan. So you'll want to make sure you get that exact information for this document. And then, because this document's going to the lender and the settlement office, and when it's recorded at the courthouse, you don't want his name to be John if it's Jonathan. So it gets a little technical here in a couple of places.
For the seller, so it is the seller's name, it's not the firm they're listing.
That is correct. It is the seller's name. And it will be on the MLS or the GIS tax assessment information. That's what the GIS is, the tax assessment.
The parcel viewer. Yeah. I saw that yesterday.
It's good information. It's a must. Gotta have. Okay. Then the listing broker is John Stewart Walker. It is not the agent. So if Jim Towner is on the MLS, don't put Jim's name on here because it is John Stewart Walker. And then below that is you, the selling broker, Keller Williams. You put John Stewart Walker and then you put Keller Williams. And then you check that little tiny box that says does represent. If you didn't click it, it doesn't happen. It means you didn't fill it out and you might not get paid for this. So make sure you click that little tiny box. Then number 1. So on the GIS tax assessment, you will find the county. Find it from the legal documents. Don't just make it up yourself. Get it from the paper that you printed that is connected with the property that you are creating this purchase agreement for. So the county and then the legal description. The legal description in the courthouse is probably going to be different than 123 Smith Street. So whatever the legal description is, put it in, put the tax ID number, and then more commonly known as 123 Smith Street. Okay, that makes it very clear to all parties. There may be lot 1 and 2. Well, if you don't put anything, are you buying both lots, or are you paying $60,000 for 1 lot and you thought you were getting 2 lots? So make it clear on here, what are you buying? If there's 2 somethings, LBP dash section, and put it all on there because this is not a less is more kind of thing. Okay, and then personal property includes. There used to be a line here that you could type on, and there may even be in dot loop. So where it says also included are the following. Take note in number 2, personal property does not it say refrigerator, right? The word refrigerator. If your buyer thinks that when they come home, that refrigerator is supposed to be there, then put it on there because it's not in here. You know, dishwasher, oven, range, tub, fan, smoke detectors, gas logs, the shed, etc. There's no refrigerator on here, and then what are you going to say when you know, yeah, here's your keys, and like, where's the refrigerator, people? So it's your job to put it on there. Okay. Now, personal property section you may ask for it. Doesn't mean you're going to get it. Okay, you may put the washer machine and the dryer in the section. Doesn't mean they're going to agree to that, but you're asking for that. So,
Anything that you're asking them to leave needs to be in that line.
yeah, unless you're including a personal property addendum, which is added to this, and we're not going over that today, but there is a personal property addendum. And you can say for $1, I want the tractor. Because you know that the seller's agent said, well, you know, if you give me a full price offer, we'll throw the tractor in kind of thing. But you don't really want to put that on this personal property line, right?
So you add to that.
Yeah. Add, addendum, ADD, right? You're adding to this purchase agreement. Amendment is changing. That's how I remember it. Took me 2 years to figure that out. Tell me today. Okay. So addenda, number 3. If you are going to include a lead-based paint, if you are going to include a subject to sale, which means they have to sell their house, if you're going to include a standard clause addendum, you should always include a standard clause addendum. Because Megan Templeton said you should always include a, I was like, what? Like, why would you do that? Tell me don't do a person addendum. So when we get to that, you'll know it should be part of this agreement because there's things on this cute little 3-page addendum that should be included in the purchase agreement. When you're representing your buyer, you want to do it like to the fullest. So check the standard clause amendment. If you have an other like personal property addendum, add that on here as an item. Okay, number 4. The purchase price of the property is letters. Type it out. 60 SIXTY thousand. That is letters. And then put your numerical in the parentheses. Don't put .00 cents. Just put like 60, comma, 3 zeros. 60,000. Don't put cents. Okay. Then under that, you get into financing. So my famous saying is, I don't do money because I don't. I sell houses. I don't do home inspections. I don't do appraisals. I don't do money. So, then your lender, TJ, or who your buyer chooses, TJ, you should have a pre-approval so you know that they're qualified to even spend 6 hours typing this packet up for them or however many hours. And so that pre-approval email should include, this is going to be a conventional loan. The seller needs, the buyer needs the seller to contribute $3,000 in closing costs. Things like that is where you get this information. If you don't have a pre-approval, then you need to have one to fill this out because how do you know what kind of mortgage they're going to do unless it's cash? And then you can select the box that says, this is not subject to finance. Purchaser shall pay all cash at closing. Then, in that case, you would request an email from their bank saying that they have funds to satisfy this transaction. And then if it is whichever one of the loan options, you can fill that out and as detailed as you can. But then again, I say I don't do money, so I don't ask a lot of questions. I just fill it out. So that's what I do. If you want to know, ask the lender because that's what they do for a living. Okay. Then the last one says the seller agrees to pay at settlement the sum of how much towards the purchaser's closing cost. Well, when you're shopping with your buyer, they're going to ask you, well, like, how much is this going to cost? Well, the buyer, has to pay closing costs. That's what this includes. Well, sometimes they don't have $3,000, $10,000 sometimes. Like it depends on how much the house is. And so your job is to sell a house. And so you have to kind of come up with a couple answers to some of these situations on how you're going to make it happen. How are you going to get it? If you can't get finance, then you're not going to sell a house. So you do need to know a little bit about a conventional loan. You need to know a little bit about a USDA loan. You cannot do a USDA loan in the city. So if you're driving around for 3 weeks showing people houses in the city and you know they have a pre-approval for a USDA loan, you need to probably put on out into the county because they're not going to qualify for that. So as you learn the hard way, you'll remember not to do that again. And like a conventional loan, you may know your buyer has 10% down. And this house doesn't have heat. Like, who doesn't have heat? But wood stove does not count. Write it down. That's not heat. Wood stove does not count. Which will not qualify for an FHA, USDA, HDA loan. So you see, I don't do money, but if I don't know a little bit about that stuff, then I'm probably going to sell a house while I'm showing you a conventional loan. And I know you don't have money down. And I know you're not going to qualify for a conventional. So if you can hop in on a mortgage class, that's always helpful too. So select your loan financing option and fill that out. Ask, do you have closing costs? If not, you can ask the seller to pay some, maybe all of the closing costs. So let's say John has $1,500 and closing cost is $3,000. So you can check that little tiny box and put $1,500 in and ask the seller, would you, well, let's just say they're asking $60,000 for this property and we need $15,000 in closing. So you can check that and put this and they'll say, well, since you offered for price, maybe we'll give you $1,500 for closing because we really want to sell the house. And that's how you get money. There are loans that get a little swishy about asking for too much and didn't appraise or this, that, and the other, and you'll just have to go through it. That's where you ask for. Number 5, this sale is or is not subject to property appraisal. They either want it appraised or they don't. And if you're having a FHA, USDA, the loan is going to require an appraisal, so you're going to check the if file. Cash, well, your seller might not want to pay $500 for an appraisal if it's not required. So per house, you'll have to answer that question accordingly. Number 6, financing. You'll want to check. You'll want to fill this in with like approximately 2 weeks after today. Then you should put that date in here, ish. Because sometimes it takes people longer to get their documents to the lender. Then down to number 7, deposit. Purchaser shall make a deposit up. Well, each property is different. And so if we're today buying a $60,000 property, you may put $100 there. That shows your buyer is putting in and, yeah, that's your money deposit. You may choose $500. You may put $1,000. Some listings may note in the agent comments only, must have about $1,000 earnest money deposit. So read that agent comment section for things like this. Okay. And then it is to be held by your settlement company. So if you're going to Pike, Absolute, whoever title, LAR, whoever your buyer chooses, and you grow a relationship with someone that you just love and feel good about. Oh, well, I usually use such and such. And if you like, I'll put it here. And I'll say, okay, great, yeah, they probably don't know anything. And so you put the name of that firm and then check the box that says check. Do not ever take cash. Do not ever take checks. Have them mail it. Unless, you're going right by there, because it's going to fall into the seat of your car and you're going to forget about it, or the dog is going to eat it, or your granddaughter is going to put it in her lunchbox and it's going to get wet. Not what we do. So mail the check and you have within 5 days. And we will get in trouble if you don't. So it's the rule, it's required to make sure that you remind your buyer. Because remember, everybody's all excited about, yes, we got it. We won the bid. We're under contract. Well, don't forget about that check, because you have to say, don't forget to mail your check now. That's the first thing. that we're going to do. Okay. Moving on to number 8. Then again, you'll put here, the settlement shall be at the office of. And wherever you selected the check to go is the same name that you'll put on this box. Pike title, day law, absolute, or something. And then here is where you'll decide what time, what day, when you're closing. So if it's today, 23rd, it wouldn't be before the 23rd. But don't put the 23rd on here if you didn't look at the calendar, because if that's a Sunday, that's probably not a good, like, they're not gonna be working. So look at the calendar, select a day out from the 30 days, because it takes time to get W-2s, taxes, verification of employment, etc., for your lender to get an appraisal, to have the appraiser send it back, to get a home inspection. So it may even be 45 days. As a matter of fact, I have a purchase right now with a 60-day close, because I want to hurry up and get paid, people. But it is because my seller is a widow, and she has a 4,000 square foot house full of her life. And she has to have time to pack it up and get it out and clean it up and etc. So to each his own, and the buyer can't get there before 60 days anyway, and we're real happy. So put that number in here according to, might be 10 days for cash. So if your title company can do cash, 10-day title search, record, close, 10 days in there. So it comes with the property. Okay, then we're going to go down to number 9. Is this buyer going to occupy this property or not occupy? Check the box. And it matters for financing purposes. If this is an investment property, they're not going to live here, so make sure you check not occupy. Number 10 is and is. While you're sleeping at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you wake up and you say, did she say is and is? You'll remember that number 10 is and is, because this residential property disclosure is attached to this purchase agreement, because it's a residential property, okay? And then it is subject to the Virginia Residential Property Disclosure Act. So it is attached, and it is, and this property is subject to this addendum disclosure. If you, how do you get it? Where are you going to get this from? It's going to be so when you type a listing agreement, yeah, Mr. whoever, for the property of 123 Smith Street, they do a listing agreement and the residential property disclosure document and let they pay if necessary. All of these documents should be in the MLS. Listing agreement will be in there, but the residential property will be in there, and the let they pay. If you click on doc box, you can download them and add them to your packet, and it will already have the seller's signature on it. So you don't want to get your own out of our template and put signatures on them, because then the seller's going to have to ask them to do that again, because they've already done that. So get it from the listing agent's box in the MLS.
So would you click on that particular MLS and go to doc
Yes,
documents, and then it's got all their.
yes. And if they're not in there, if they're a good agent, they're in. Don't and you're gonna love them forever. Download them, upload them, add signatures.
And that's for this entire purchase agreement?
It's
or-
for the residential property disclosure
And
and the let they pay. And it may be applied in there. And it may be a mold disclosure in there. It may be all kinds of stuff in there. You want to know that. I want to check it out. If it's not in it, you can have to send them a loan note. And you can send me the residential property and you'll know if it needs a lead-based payment because it will say from year to whatever. So that's where you'll get this residential property that's already signed first.
I have a question about number 9.
Yep.
So if you had a buyer that was gonna buy a duplex.
Yep.
And both of the units were rented out already. They were month-to-month leases.
Yep.
And he planned on moving in, but he had to get one of the, out one of the purchases while they were still there.
Today.
So he would occupy, but,
So for financing purposes, if that's not his mailing address, he
right,
does not live there.
so it does not.
He does not.
Okay. Cool.
If he wants to add his address, I mean, as he's living there, you know, his lender will have to go over that with you.
Okay, but generally, if there's 2 tenants in the duplex,
Not gonna happen.
okay.
Okay. So, good question. So number 12. Is this in a property homeowner association? It either is or it is not. And you just learned all about that in your class, I know. So you have to check that box if it is. And then number 13, conduct, it either is or it is not. That's their box.
Where would you find it's in a property owners association?
It will say on the MLS, and it will say what the dues are. And so you're explaining to your buyer, this property is in a homeowners association and the dues are $500 a year. So like, no kidding, you knew that because I put it in here and you sat down with them and went over this and explained to them that you're buying a house that we checked this little tiny box that says it's in a proper homeowners association.
That's above rules and regulations and.
Yeah. Well, then the seller will have to provide that to you. And you'll want to share that with your buyer and they have a certain amount of days to review it. Yeah, okay. Property inspection, number 14. So here, Roanoke purchase agreement is very different. This is our Lynchburg Association. I kind of like it. I get a little pain with the Roanoke one because it's an addendum. Okay, but this one spells it out pretty clear. So you either waive the property inspection or you select that the purchaser has the right to have a home inspection. Each agent kind of has their own, like, gives you 14 days. Some people put 14 days. I always put 10 because I'm like in a hurry. I want to get my stuff done because I don't want to wait because then you can't do an appraisal until after your home inspection. Well, you already took 2 weeks of your time and I just want to get it done. And so I put 10 and I most all the time get it done within the 10 days. Review the report. You usually get it that night or the next day. And then you can type up another document that goes with this, which is the repair request addendum. So if you're asking for repairs, you need to upload a repair request addendum in the template. We didn't print it out. And then you can, so usually the report will have a summary and it will say, you know, HVAC this, and there's a leak in the roof, and the toilet needs to be tightened up, or whatever it is, and then you will want to say to your buyer, like they might say, oh, I want all this stuff fixed, and you'll say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, whatever you say, ma'am, sir. You may say, well, you know, like they wanted 60,000. We offered 55 and they took it. And so can't you just like tighten up your own potty and we'll just ask them to fix that leak kind of thing. So you'll get to what is really important because you want to keep the deal. But if they already gave you a deal, you know, you just got to work it out. So I put 10 days. And then there's another little paragraph that says optional paragraph on page 5. So this is a new paragraph, and we used to always write in the other section. This purchase is subject to the buyer's satisfaction of the home inspection. Well, this says that. If you check this box is, then if the buyer wants out, they can get out. They get their earnest money back and they get out. Okay, so if you're getting a purchase agreement that has that box checked, then you'll know it has to be negotiated to make it happen through this home inspection stage of the purchase agreement. And if it's not, and they just kind of want to know what is going on with the property, and it's not a deal breaker if they don't get exactly everything fixed, then you might want to check or not. Okay. And then we'll move on to page 6, home warranty. There are all kinds of vendors, you see the commercials, Home Warranty of America. We have cards, flyers in the copy machine room. So another value as a buyer's agent, you may say, or you may be showing the house, and the heat pump might have come over on the Mayflower, so to speak. And as long as it's running and it's working, and this might be a first-time home buyer who is not going to have $6,000, $8,000, whatever $1,000 to fix that, and it's like November, and it's going to be cold, and they have 2 brand new kids. So you may want to add this home warranty for this purpose. And you can select all different kinds of options on the home warranty. You might ask the seller to pay for the home warranty. Okay? If not, then you can decline it, or they can pay for it themselves. And it's somewhere between 500, 550. I've never seen them higher than 600. I don't think. It's higher than that right now. They may be higher than that. I don't usually have. Oh, you did. Okay. So around 12. Oh, and so you may select that coverage, which includes all of these things, and you could include these things for whatever house. It could be good for your buyer to choose that option.
Is that something you would get like a vendor for?
Yeah. You should, because you're giving them business.
Right.
And one company may have better options than another company. So you may want to offer more than one option to the buyer. You may want to have you should have more than one lender. You should have more than one home inspector. You should have them all saved in your phone. You should have a drywall person, a landscape person, a plumber, a roof person. You're going to need all of these people to make your transaction the best. And that is your value proposition to your client. Okay, so then number 21, additional terms. This is like the catch-all. So if you want to put something in here like if the foundation inspection is not satisfactory to the purchaser, buyer will withdraw this purchase agreement. Because if there's like a stair-stepping crack in the foundation, you want that checked specifically. And if that's a deal breaker, you'll want to put that in. If there's a deal breaker or something like that, you'll want to put it in section 21. Okay, then
Is that where you put like the weight on?
now that's we're just about there. We'll move over to H on page 8. The total cost of fulfilling the seller repair or treatment obligation is F and G. If you go back a page, F as well, septic, and G is seller pays for termite well and septic. Write it down. Seller pays termite, well, and septic. Buyer pays for earnest money deposit, home inspection, closing cost, and appraisal.
Can you repeat those?
Seller pays for termite, well, and septic. If you're on town water, you don't do a well check. If you have public septic, you don't do that. It's termite only. But if you have a well and a septic, seller pays termite, well, and septic, unless you draw an X on G and F. Okay? Sometimes you'll get a purchase agreement back that's got an X and it says sold as is, and we're not doing that. Seller said, we're not doing termite, well, and septic. You say, fine, I don't care. I'm here because your buyer said that. Okay? But if you want termite, well, and septic, the seller pays for it.
And the buyer is.
And the buyer is earnest money, home inspection, appraisal, and closing cost. Unless you can get some closing cost from the seller, it is the buyer's responsibility.
Earnest money inspection.
Appraisal and closing cost. And then on H, you'll want to put the number $1,000. So if they have to pay for termites, then the seller is agreeing to pay up to a $1,000 treatment, and that should cover it. Or they can get out of it, one or the other. It's more than that. And then number 25 is this agreement becomes legally binding on, and you check 5 o'clock PM or whatever day and time that you want. So right now it's kind of weird with multiple offers and so forth. So you can kind of like talk yourself out of the deal if you put a time on here and they haven't decided yet. So be sensitive to the time you put on here. I currently have a purchase agreement that I put like 4 different times, the day and the time. Buyer hasn't signed the thing yet. And so it expired the day and the time. I put 3 days, like, what are you doing, people? And then I put like 3 days later, and he's like, yeah, well, I sent it to my attorney to review. I'm like, I am your attorney. And so I still don't have it done. So I have to, they'll have to draw a line through it, put a different day and time and initial it. And then everyone will have to do that. So be careful with that little section right there, can be time consuming. And then your purchaser, and then you send it back to the listing agent for seller signatures. Then you'll want to fill out your information under the selling broker section. And you'll want to do it like this. It will read Keller Williams.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll be there.
1179N, Vista Park Drive, Forest, Virginia, 1179A, Vista Park Drive, Forest, 24551. And then our office phone number is 434-534-9113. Put it on there, or someone's going to send you a love note and say you need to fill this out. You don't have to have a fax or deport number, and then your personal information goes here. Your name, your email, your cell phone, and some people put their deport license. If you're a good real estate agent, you'll put it on. And then you'll leave the listing side blank and they'll fill it out. And why do they need to know this? Because when you send it to the settlement company, how are they going to call you? Because they don't know your phone number and send you an email about, oh, I need this document from your buyer. So give them what they're asking for on here. So that was a quick run through the purchase agreement. How you feeling? Good?
I'll be calling you.
It's a lot, but it's good. It's simple. It's not easy. I should have a tattoo. Simple, not easy. But it is easy. Once you get the swing of it, you'll know how to check the box and fill the box out. But like I said, they're all different in their own way. Okay, then the next document is the residential property disclosure, 1 page. You will get that from the listing agent. When you put a house on the market, you will fill out a residential property disclosure. It's like my favorite form, it's the address, sign it, done. It's easy, quick, okay. Address, sign it, purchaser, done. You're putting it on the market, it's the address, seller, done. Okay, I love that document. There is a new section that goes with this. It's really pretty, blue and orange and reddish. And so at the bottom of each one of these pages is a place to initial. Make sure you add that in your loop, or if it's not already there, you have your buyer initial it. If you have 2 parties, if you have Mr. John and Mrs. John, add the initial box for Mrs. John here. And it is all of the information for the residential property disclosure that you're not ever going to read over to your clients, but you're giving it to them to read prior to that. Okay? Good. Standard clause addendum is my favorite. Don't type a purchase agreement that says Megan Templeton without a standard clause addendum. Why? Because this has a little bit of information that is not in the purchase agreement. The property addresses as you did on the purchase agreement. Is this a backup offer? Well, this is where you're going to decide whether or not this is a backup offer or not. Okay, and you check the box. And then you'll fill out below accordingly. Number 2, this is where you're telling the buyer you need a letter. And I put the number 2 there in 2 days. I have to have it within 2 days if you don't already have it. So 1 day. See what I'm saying? Sometimes you might not have that letter yet, but you're telling them you have to have a letter from your lender that says you are qualified. Sometimes a seller will not accept a purchase agreement until you have a letter to share with them, especially in this market. Number 3, homeowners insurance applies. I put the number 5 there for 5 days. Leased equipment. I'll tell you a story about leased equipment. Check the box apply. Ask the seller, is there any leased equipment? Because you don't know, you're not the listing agent, right? How do you know the propane tank comes with the house? Oh, well, it's bolted to the house. It does not mean it comes with the house. It might belong to Foster's or Fox or somebody, and then they're going to come home and think, oh my gosh, where's my gas tank that I just bought? Well, it may be a leased propane tank. It may be a leased hot water heater. Who would think? But I told you so. I'm telling you today. I'm just telling you, like cash, $35,000. And then, you close, and by the way, oh yeah, hot water heater is leased for some. I didn't. Why would you do a standard clause addendum for a cash $35,000 house? Because Megan said so. And that's how you know you told your buyer that there is leased equipment and the seller signed it saying that there either is or there is not. So that cleans up that little boo-boo right there, because you're going to get it. Wood stoves do not convey unless you either write it in section 21 on number 1-ish with the refrigerator thing, or somewhere talk about it, because it doesn't come with half. Okay, unless they say in writing that you can have it. And neither does the washing machine and dryer. Okay. That might be these two. Well flow test. Another short story. If there is a well, you should recommend or discuss the option for your buyer to have at their own cost a well flow test. Because the water should pump 3 gallons per minute. And if they move in today and then tomorrow they have no water, then I feel pretty bad at, while they're trying to give their kids a bath and it's like blood. So offer this as an option. If they would like to pay for a well flow test, you can even have sell pay for it. But it should pump 3 gallons a minute. This is where you're telling them, well, I told you, you should probably have a well flow test here while you're talking to them. And then radon, same as below. And I thought maybe that you will need to do a radon test if you have a basement, but it is my understanding that is not correct. You can have a radon test if you do not have a basement. And radon is a gas that comes out of the ground and it is a cancer-causing gas. And when you're talking about these options and things for your buyer to do, that would be at their own cost too. And it depends on who does it and how much it is. Takes a day or two to do it too. 3 days, yeah. And then this explains mold, but there is no mold test section. There is no mold asking, do you want that? So if you want a mold, if you want them to check for mold, you'll have to add that either in section 21 or in your home inspection somehow. Ask for that. Okay. And then that is it. Fine. So now do you see why this is like a really important document? Because it's not in the purchase agreement, but probably should. Or I would. And then the lead-based paint, 78. Read this like 4 times before you send it to somebody, because there's little hidden sections in here. So put the property address at the top. And then when somebody puts this house on the market, they're already going to have this filled out with the seller's signature on it, okay? So don't draft up your own and put your signatures on it and then send it to them, because then they're gonna have to get it done again. That's not nice.
Pull it from the documents.
Pull it from the document. Yeah, if it's not in there, ask them to send it to you. So the seller will fill out. Seller has no knowledge, if they have no knowledge, or then they do. And then B, the seller has no report to share with you. That will be filled out. And then you will have initials that the purchaser has received a copy of this information. Or that the purchaser has, in addition, received a pamphlet that is in your loop that Shalaya has uploaded for us to share with all of our buyers about what is because you're supposed to share that with them. And then E, you either waive the risk assessment or you request it to be within 10 days. And then your seller signs it, your buyer signs it, you sign it, and so does the listing agent. And so, what if the listing agent didn't sign it? Just send them a little text and say, hey, can I get your signature on here too? After you get yours and send it back to them, and then they'll share it back with you. But when we're finished with our loop and we submit it for review so we can get paid, if all of this is not on here just right, you don't get paid. And they're gonna send it back to you and say, here, let they pick document these initials from da 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 da. So that's how you fill it out, and that's how you can make sure you don't get a love note from Megan saying you need to add your listing agent, buyer's agent, seller, purchaser. And if you can't, your signature and dot loop can't overlap, so you may have to drag them around to get them to fit just right. And if you do, and it's kind of crooked, it's fine, just have it on there. And then your initials under F, agent has confirmed the seller. So that's the agent listing agent's initials. So when you do a listing agreement, you have to initial that you told the seller of their obligations that they have. Good? Really good? So that's contract 101, purchase. What you thinking?
This makes perfect.
Yes, it does. And so you could do like a trial on your loop and make a test loop and call it 123 Smith Street or something and fill in the blank. Because what's going to happen is someone's going to say, I want to do this. And you know, your check is going to be like, oh God, like, I don't know how to do this because I've never done it before. Well, then do it now while you're not freaking out. And somebody's not waiting on you to hurry to sign it. Well, what the crazy about it. So just do it now while you have all of this and you can say, like, what was supposed to go there? And just send me a text and I'll get back with you. Or read it really good and you'll know the answer to it. And then listings is a whole nother loop, which is like this compared to purchase. So it's the listing agreement. It's only 4 pages. You get the information from the GIS, from the links and links under county and the MLS. Print that out, fill in the blank. Here the lady's name is, and the husband's name is, and the address is, because you thought it was this, it's really not that. And then the legal description goes in there. And then that's where you explain to them that the commission is this, and you agree to pay the buyer agent this much commission. And yes, they give you permission to put a sign in a lockbox on the property. And is this in a historical district or not? Because it matters. And for how long? And so you had that signed, and that means you have permission to take pictures and put the house in the MLS. And then you have the residential property disclosure, remember address sign done. Part 2, initial 4 pages done, and let they paint. So that's pretty simple-ish for a listing. Purchase gets to be a little bit more detailed. Go to a LAR Contracts Class if someone is going to teach it for you. It will not be me, because I'm not the expert at the LAR. I like it. So go to that class if you can. And then their VAR is on our dot loop, print it, fill it out. And then let me tell you another story. Are we still recording? Got it all.
Let me make sure she didn't have any questions.
Drop. Okay.